Okay, Malek, you had this burning ambition to set up some form of a media radio station since 1983. What took you so long?
I guess, I think radio was one of the many possibilities out there. But really, it's about, opportunities. I think the time I came closest to really thinking about it was in 1995 time frame. I just armed with an MBA, came back, and realized that for the first time we had a private radio station. I think that was Time Highway Radio. And suddenly realizing, hey, we're really liberalizing now. But unfortunately, the company that you're from, Astro, Miasat at the time, also came out with 6 radio stations, right? But I think then the market has matured, and in that sense, people might want something different. And then the opportunity came again, simply because, the radio has now evolved, and a new segment came up about business radio.
They say in media, timing is everything. Is that true?
I think for timing is everything, and recognizing the growth cycle of a particular media item. Give you an example. I did the classifieds paper. Timing was terrible. It was just before Asian financial crisis. Even this radio station, I always say to my friends, look, if I ever start a business, right, sell your shares because a crisis is coming. And that's what happened basically when we first started sort of bringing people together. I remember our first broadcast was not about great rosy days, but it was about the Lehman Brothers, Lehman Brothers coming down, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it was within our first month.
Now that everything's up and running, are you in this for the long run?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it really is a long-term thing. It's not, we've been approached so many times about selling the company and so on, but I'm not interested. This is not pure business for money's sake. It's actually also, a passion for seeing Malaysia grow in terms of, Malaysia grow in terms of our thinking, our maturity. I think, you see a lot of bickering happening at the moment. How to advance knowledge, how to make Malaysia a more competitive economy. I mean, that's the reason for the station.
What do you say to those people who say you are the real entrepreneur, that you're setting up conglomerates and businesses? You helped set up JobStreet, and then you sold your shares, you set up BFM, and then who's to say you won't set up something in property or financial investment? What do you say to those people?
I think that's a fair point. I mean, I think there will be other things, but I think BFM is part of that agenda. I think, I'll tell you even now, I mean, if building first world mindsets means getting involved in education, getting involved in, postgraduate school, creating our own version of a post-MBA program or executive education program here, that's part of the agenda. So it's no different. Now I think it's really doing things that complements what you're doing now and advances the cause further. I think that's where, I'll be constantly looking at the opportunities.
I think Malek has a lot of passion. Well, actually, he's got a tremendous amount of passion. I mean, when he talks about the business, he's always got ideas. He's got ideas bouncing off his brains. I can't even keep up. Okay, maybe he started showing that trait about 5-6 years ago. He was always coming with lots of observations, lots of ideas and different things, and not necessarily ideas that would work in a more institutionalized company, right? But certainly as an entrepreneur with a clean sheet of paper, he could just basically do whatever he wants.
Would you say you're a profit entrepreneur businessman, or you're an ideal businessman that you want to see the society develop?
I think it's the latter, if anything. I mean, it's nice to make money along the way, and I would not go into any business really if we can't sustain ourselves. Because, even if it's a social enterprise, but it is an ideal generator. I mean, there is a reason for being to do these things. I mean, if it's just for the sake of pursuit of profits and pursuit of this, it's meaningless after a while.
Fair enough. Now tell us about setting up BFM. How difficult was it? What were the challenges?
Interestingly, I think initially it was just getting past. We presented. It was regulatory. A lot of it was to do with regulatory, not in the licensing sense of the word. I think interestingly, when I proposed the idea to the regulators, SKMM, they have a board of the MCMC board that actually,
MCMC, yes.
Yes, that actually sort of the board members did like the idea because they would like it themselves, right? So from a licensing point of view, it was not an issue. The issue was that essentially there are a lot of frequencies that we needed a frequency. Even today, you're in Klang Valley. I would love to go to Penang,
Right.
but I can't. There's just not enough frequency there. Other things, I guess, raising capital. I thought it would be easy after two startups. I've
Right.
done 2 startups before,
Yeah.
and but for some reason this time around it was a lot more. It was rather longer than I remember my first venture. It took one meeting and an hour to get my first million ringgit in venture capital. My second venture took 2 months and 3 meetings. This one took about 15 meetings and at least 8 months. So interesting. As time goes on, it's probably getting easier. It's actually getting harder. But I think that was the second challenge. But it was something that was quite. After a while, it's behind us now, which is great. We should now moving on.
Yeah. Now, you said regulations. It's a very regulated market here in Asia. Didn't that frustrate you?
To a certain extent, I think the nice thing is being able to understand the nuance. I think that's a key element to understand nuance. I mean, for me, if you're a music station, you have no issues with regulation really, other than the fact that there'll be calls for you to play certain local music and things like that, and you have to and then which are not necessarily have business-oriented requirements, but we're being a business station. We're interviewing people who might say anything on air, right? So that creates a totally different dimension.
Since you love media so much, any aspirations to break into TV, BFM TV?
I've seen your crew here. It takes about 5 of you to do this interview. It takes a lot of scripts. I mean, not necessarily scripts, but it takes a lot of preparation to do this. For me, it sounds too much like hard work, too much cost.
Yeah.
So for me, radio, I can go up and actually just have a little Zoom recorder.
Yeah.
I can sit in front of anyone and take an interview. For me, I rather the freewheeling, the more more impromptu flexibility. It's a lot easier to do radio.
Yeah.
Money was an issue. I would love to, I always love the mobile industry.
Right.
I would figure out ways of, in the same way that Windows is so ubiquitous in the computer world. Second one, I think, is education. I think, especially something that, again, is personal. It's about, you need to do something that means something to you, and education means a lot to me. I've been a big beneficiary of that.
Right.
The third one, media. It's part of the agenda.
You still love the media. Yeah.
Still love the media. I guess its ability to give your input to help to make an impact on society, to make an impact on people's minds, people's perceptions.